afternoon and welcome to another edition of the Daily Deuce. I'm Gary Graves from just outside Louisville, Kentucky, home of the 25th ranked Louisville Cardinals football team. And in Maryland, my good friend, esteemed colleague, and Baltimore Orioles fan, John Webster. John, how are you doing this glorious October day?
Hey, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Another great week in sports, another great weekend in sports. Got a lot to cover today. As Gary mentioned, congratulations to the Baltimore Orioles, American League East Division champions, awaiting on Saturday the winner of the Tampa Bay Texas Rangers series.
Yep.
I'm not happy playing either one of them. I just want you to know that, Gary, before you ask me which one I would prefer. I would prefer not to play either one and just move on to the next round. But
Okay.
since that's not going
Understood. But hey, John, I got to tell you, you called it way back when. I mean, you had faith and confidence in your Orioles in a way that none of us, especially me, did not have. I thought they were a team on the rise. I really thought that they were like a year away, maybe two, but they surprised us all. And the way they're set up, I mean, I could see them being a contender again next year, no matter what the Yankees or the Red Sox do. You know, the usual financial powerhouses. I mean, when you look at it, I mean, the Yankees almost finished in last place if they didn't finish in last place. I haven't looked at the standings to be quite honest, but it's, I mean, this is probably one of the most memorable seasons I can recall. With the Orioles. I always feel like, for me, 1989 was just a great year because it was coming off that 100 loss. I want to say it was something like 118 losses, but I could be wrong. No, it was 108, and that was just awful. And that year they took Frank Robinson took them, to within a game of winning the AL East. That was really just a fun season.
Yeah, I remember that year. A couple bad bounces against the Toronto Blue Jays,
Mm-hmm.
and they were able to get past them. But
Yeah,
this
yeah,
run right now with this current Oriole group, they're a lot of fun, man. They
yeah.
whether you're a fan of Adley Rushman, Gunnar Henderson, Cedric Mullins, Ryan Mountcastle, or Jordan Westberg, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Ryan McKenna or Kyle Bradish or Grayson Rodriguez. The list goes on and on.
Mm-hmm.
They are a very good team. They're a very tight team. I
And
don't
very
want to talk.
resilient. Very
They,
resilient.
they are. They bounce back. Um, I still say that this is a great year, but I still think they're a year or so away from their full potential. We'll see what happens in the playoffs this week. It's going to be tough. No matter who you put in front of a team in the playoffs, it's going to be hard. There's a reason why the other teams in the playoffs, just like the Orioles.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens, man. But
Yeah.
you can't take it away. Last weekend, I was fortunate enough, blessed enough, had a friend take me to the Orioles game last weekend. Big shout out to my friend John Johnson, my Eastern Shore buddy. We went to, not last weekend, last week during the week. We went to the Orioles Nationals game. Kyle Bradish won the game 1-0, went 8 innings. Oh man, it was beautiful, man. I loved every minute of it. It's
That wasn't the
nothing.
clincher, though, was it?
No, that was the one that got it down to. I think it got it down to one game. I think that game did. Got it down to one, and they
Okay.
clinched the next day. Either
Yeah.
one or two. Got it down, something like that. And you can't go to an Orioles game unless you go to Boog's Barbecue Pit. It's not a
Oh,
complete trip. Not a
really?
complete trip unless you go to Boog's Barbecue Pit.
Man, I'm telling you, I miss that. It's like there's so many things I miss about Maryland, but going to Boog's Barbecue Pit, whoo, man. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer just for that too.
Oh man, it's beautiful, man. It was great.
Yeah.
And again, thank you to my dear friend John Johnson for even thinking about me to go to the game with you. I had an absolutely wonderful time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, we'll get to the playoff picture in a minute, but let's talk about the NFL. Obviously, coming off a really well, I mean, if you're a Commanders fan, a down weekend, um, and I would say probably a down weekend only not just because they lost, but maybe because of the way that they lost. John, you saw more of that loss to the Philadelphia Eagles than I did. If you could just kind of fill us in rather on just what happened. Why do you think they lost that game, especially after, especially since it was a winnable game for them?
Um, they were right there. They had the game. They could have won the game. A couple things. I think Sam Howell at the court, he really bounced back from the game he had against Buffalo. Really bounced back. Did a great job. In the beginning of the game, matter of fact, their first drive was 7 minutes and they were up 7-0. They literally took half of the first quarter with the ball. I still say, and I will continue to say, the strongest part of the Commanders' offense is their running game. Now, Hal did a wonderful job slinging it around the field. Terry McLaurin was targeted, I think, about 10 times and had like 6 or 7 catches. Great game for him. Curtis Samuel scored the first touchdown. Johan Dotson had the tying touchdown. So he had some good throws. Couple things that I saw. End of the game. They're losing 31-30. You can go for 2 or you can go to overtime. Me personally, I would have went for 2. Some people are saying they can't go for 2 because they don't have a 2-point play and they can't get 2 yards rushing. I think they can get 2 yards rushing. And another thing that I would look to do, or I would look for them to do in the future, incorporate Jacoby Brissett into the offense. When you have these short yardage plays or these 2-point conversions, he gives you another dimension, a RPO dimension, run pass option. Use him, take advantage of it. Hopefully that's going to happen in the future. Another thing that I saw, the defense in the second half could not stop Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts got on a roll and they were going down the field. One of the things that I saw, the young kid Forbes, he was on AJ Brown. AJ Brown had a great second half. Forbes was trying to play him as hard as he could, but Forbes is a rookie. He's new. This kid's really going to be good, in my opinion, but he's still a rookie. And AJ Brown is one of the best wide receivers in the league. I don't know enough about football, but I will ask the question, was there any double team help on that, or was he responsible the whole time one-on-one coverage? That's something I would have to ask a football expert like yourself, Gary, or whoever else we could ask, because that's my question. Because I saw a lot of times Forbes looks like he was by himself with A.J. Brown. I don't know. I didn't see a roll up into a double coverage or some type of zone or anything. So that would be my question there. Mm-hmm. Another thing I'll say about the Commanders game. In the overtime, well, let me back up before the overtime. Ron Rivera said they were gassed, so that's why he kicked the extra point. In my opinion, if you're gassed, that's more reason to go for a 2-point conversion because you really don't have enough to go a whole another overtime. That's just my personal opinion. Mm-hmm. To get to the overtime, they won the toss. They had the ball. 4th and 5. Remember what I said, Gary, in the beginning of this conversation. They could not stop Philadelphia the entire second half. Philadelphia went up and down the field as they pleased in the second half. 4th and 5 at your own 30. I know it sounds crazy, but I would have gone for it. Why? Because your defense is not stopping Philadelphia. There's a good chance you're not going to get the ball back. 4th and 5, go for it. You make it, you keep moving. If you don't, you lose it. But your defense probably is not going to stop Philadelphia. My question to you, well, to everybody, when they kicked, did they get the ball back? Absolutely not. Philadelphia went down the field and they kicked the field goal. Another thing that I would like the defense to look at, Philadelphia has this play called the brotherly shove or the push or whatever it's called.
Tush push.
They go with these 4th and 1s and everybody gets behind Jalen Hurts and you push. They had that in overtime. And, It's a push, but you know what else is really important about that play? Philadelphia is rushing to the line of scrimmage, and you on the defense are totally discombobulated and really don't have time to get yourself together. Washington should have called timeout before that last one. Get yourself together, get yourself lined up for that 4th and 1, that push, tush, whatever you call it. Should have taken a timeout. Those are the things that I saw, that I see. I think Washington, as I said, I can see me coming back full time to be a Commanders fan. I still say it. I saw a lot of good stuff with them. They got a linebacker, really plays hard. Jamin Davis. My
Kentucky.
goodness, he's all over the field.
Mm-hmm.
But I think sometimes a coach can be his own worst enemy. And I can put myself in that category. Sometimes when you got the players, let them play. Mm-hmm. You can coach them. Yeah, you got to have some discipline. But at the end, let them go. Let them play. And I think Davis is one where let him play. Let him go. He likes to hunt. He likes to go wherever the ball is. Let him hunt. Let him go hunt. I know that's not Del Rio's style, but, this guy.
Which surprises me. That really surprises me. Sorry. I just had to jump in and say that because I always thought of Jack Del Rio as a, as a risk taker, as kind of a renegade.
He's shown me the last couple of years, still a very good defensive coordinator, very good defensive coach, but he believes a lot in structure. Nothing's wrong with structure, ladies and gentlemen. I have no problem with that. But what I am saying, when you have the talent, when you got the guys that can get the job done, let them go, turn them loose. On that front 4, you got Deron Payne, you got Sweat, you got John Allen, and you got Chase Young. That's 4 first-round picks. Turn them loose. Mm-hmm. Let them do what they do.
Yeah.
Within a reason, you got to still have your structure. Mm-hmm. But understand, you got talent. You got some players that can do some things. And even with this kid on the corner, Forbes, he had a rough day, Gary. He had a rough day, but my goodness, he is going to be something special, in my opinion.
Yeah. About Jamin Davis, I have to ask you now, again, kind of going back to, and basing this a lot of what I read on social media and, and some of the commentary about him is that he didn't seem dialed in. He seemed kind of disconnected. He seemed kind of lost, really, for lack of a better term. What do you attribute his improvement to? And my second question is, how much of that offense on Sunday reflected Eric Bieniemy and his influence having an actual effect? Because we can always put attention on the quarterback and depend on him, but at some point, the personality of the OC has to come through. The things which you alluded to with the run game. Do you see them kind of getting more toward that balance? Do you see them kind of trying to get to trying to incorporate the running backs more and be kind of smash mouth and chew up the clock? Because a 7-minute opening drive, that's impressive at any level.
Well, to answer your question about Jamin Davis, I think one of the things that I attribute his advancement to, he's playing. He's just playing. You ever seen a kid play and they got to think about what they're doing before they do it? And, he basically, a kid knows the book. Chapter 1, I'm going to do this. Chapter 2, I'm going to do this. Chapter 3, I'm going to do this. But what happens when the book you read goes from chapter 1 to chapter 6 to chapter 7 to chapter 10? It's about being able to react, realizing sometimes you can't take that book with you all the time because that book is chapter by chapter by chapter. And that's not how the game is played. Honestly, it's not how life is played. Mm-hmm. And I think what he's doing now, he's able to react. Now, he did have one situation. He took a bad angle on trying to tackle Swift in the open field. That he didn't have a good angle. But like I said, for him, I want him to do more hunting. You know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of matter of fact, I got to give it to. I didn't think of it until I heard him say. Doc Walker said it the other day on the radio. He reminds me of a young LeVar Arrington when LeVar was playing. When if LeVar had the chance to play his whole career with Marty Schottenheimer, LeVar Arrington would be in the Hall of Fame right now, in my personal opinion. Marty Schottenheimer was a great coach for linebackers, whether it was Derek Thomas, whether it was LeVar Arrington, and he had, who did he have in Cleveland? I think he had Mike Johnson maybe in Cleveland, a couple of others, I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. But great linebackers, great coach for linebackers. And I think Davis, if you let him hunt, he can do some things. Like against Philadelphia, I would have had him, and again, I don't know enough. It may have already been happening. I would have had him shadowing Jalen Hurts most of the day. That way, if he got outside that pocket, there's Davis to wrestle him down to the ground. That's what I would have done, you know. But the other question you asked is about Bieniemy and the offense. I think the offense got pretty close to 50-50, but I really want it to be more 55-45 with the run. I keep stressing, and I will continue to stress. The strong point of that offensive line is run blocking. Run blocking. The strong point of the Washington Commanders, taking time off that clock and just eating it so you don't have a chance to get back on the field.
Yeah, that's me. I agree. And I mean, it's especially when you have a young quarterback like Sam Howell. Yeah, you want him to lead the team. You know, I mean, he's going to be the face of your franchise in theory, but don't put more on him than he can handle. And keep defenses honest. That's the thing about a run game that I think a lot of teams forget about. And I'm going to say probably for college too, that with all this focus on the sexy play, the big play, that you got to have a run game to keep defenses honest, to really just show that you can be multidimensional if everything falls into place. Because again, football is a game where you give what the defense, you take what the defense gives you. But I agree with you. When I think about Brian Robinson being there, and having seen him, at Alabama, that I think to myself, my goodness gracious, even with the issues that he had last year, the off-field struggle that he had last year, he is still a bull. And there's this, I can't remember who the other starter is. You can fill me in on that. It's like his name is right on the tip of my tongue. But when you got two backs like that, when you've got three backs, in fact, that I can recall from the depth chart, you got to use them. And I hope that this team starts to reflect Eric Bieniemy's vision in terms of using those backs and really playing that smash mouth football that they want to play by running the ball and then setting up the pass.
Well, I think that Bieniemy is a very good coordinator, doing an excellent job. And you have Robinson there who's hitting those holes and doing a great job running. You also have Antonio Gibson. I think that's what you're thinking about.
That's who
Gibson, I still say I like him more in the open field, as similar to I'll give you another blast from the past, Gary. Similar to a Joe Washington or a Kelvin Bryant coming out of the backfield, catching that ball on third down. That's the biggest thing I want Gibson to get used to, is take that loaf of bread and don't drop it. Keep it underneath your arm. Don't fumble it. That's what I want him to do, because he's a great runner, always fighting for yardage, but sometimes he drops that ball on the ground, and that's just not something that the Commanders can afford. No team can afford that. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Well, let's go down a level and talk about colleges. Georgia remains number one, but that lead is shrinking, and all of a sudden they look kind of vulnerable. They probably should have won that game Auburn should have won that game, but Georgia pulled it out. And if not for just two one-handed highlight reel catches by Brock Bowers, we might be talking about a loss for them. Their first in something like 24 games or whatever. But um, you've got this drumbeat now for Texas as probably the people's number one. It looks kind of wide open. John, I'm one of those. I believe that until somebody beats Georgia, they are still number one. Having said that, they face a big challenge against Kentucky, which is unbeaten and number 20, and just came off an annihilation of Florida through the ground game that I covered, and I could not believe what I was seeing. I don't know if that was just an outlier for Kentucky. I don't know if that was an outlier in terms of the importance of a ground game. That's something I'm exploring this week. But I still feel like Georgia is, again, you got to beat them. And Kentucky has played them tough in recent years, but I don't know if they have enough right now to beat them. My question to you is Georgia vulnerable, or is it just like they're just playing their schedule, and the guys, the teams that they're familiar with are going to come at them?
First question, Georgia, Kentucky, is it in Lexington or is it in Athens?
It's in Athens.
Then I'm going to disappoint you, my friend. It's an outlier this week. Georgia takes out Kentucky this week.
Well, John, John, I tend, I agree with you. I agree with you. I'm not crazy. I'm realistic because again, you're Kentucky. You're still that tier,
It
below.
would
You're
be
still trying to
nice.
chase them. But continue your point.
It would be nice if the game was in Lexington after coming off that big win over Florida. It would be great. I just don't know if Stoops can have those kids ready to forget about last week and go to Athens with their mind on Georgia. That comes from time, Gary. That comes with being used to being here. Kentucky is used to being here in basketball. Football, they're getting there. Stoops doing a wonderful job, but they're not used to being up here. No. And that first quarter, that first 5 minutes of the first quarter, when you're in Athens and you're around the hedges, ooh, that's all SEC schools. It's hard to go on the road. Alabama's going to Texas A&M this week. Shoot. With the word that Nick Saban's having, he may have a head of hair like mine by the time the game starts. So, that's just a lot to worry about in these SEC schools, and you got to go on the road, and you have to play the number one team in the country, who I know this week. I guarantee you Kirby Smart has some very interesting adjectives to say to those kids in practice this week after the Auburn game. I guarantee you he does. And they're going to come out with a different mindset and a different intensity. Can Kentucky match that intensity? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. And I think Georgia wins, and you just got to come out there and ready to go for it. I'm just not sure Kentucky's ready to do that.
Yeah. The only chance, and it's not just because of Ray Davis. I do think that 280 yards is obviously an outlier. He's a 1,000-yard back. There's no doubt about that. But the only thing that I see really working in Kentucky's favor that they've got to push is that defense. They have played Georgia well defensively. I think last year they held Georgia to their lowest output. It was something like 22-16, and they had several opportunities at home to go ahead in that game. Georgia really looked shaky in that, but Georgia found a way to get it done. 2 years ago down there, Georgia pretty much led the whole way, but they didn't put Kentucky away. And Kentucky had a chance at the end to actually tie that game until they came up with a stand. And I think I remember Kirby Smart saying afterward that Kentucky smacks you in the mouth. Kentucky, can manhandle you. He said that was like one of the few teams that they've run up against this side of Alabama that that really are not intimidated by him. Whether that has to do with being in the same division, I don't know. But Kentucky finds a way to get itself up. They just don't have the same kind of talent, in my opinion, that Georgia does, especially since the two guys that you have leading your offense right now, Devin Leary and Ray Davis, both of them are transfers. Ray Davis is familiar with the SEC after rushing for 1,000 yards with Vandy last year. Devin Leary is still kind of new, and he's got receiver problems, receiver depth problems. So that's another issue. So John, I do agree with you that that's Georgia's game really to lose. And if having gotten that difficult one behind them, it usually follows that that they respond, that they recover, that they rebound. But before I go into that, I'm going to ask you about your Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Were you impressed with them coming back against Duke? And what do you see as their chances coming here to Louisville this weekend?
Well, I don't like the schedule Notre Dame has. It's Ohio State, at Duke, at Louisville, home against USC, and then to Death Valley to play Clemson. All those games are primetime games. All those games are against teams that are top, those at SC top 10, and Louisville's top 25, and Duke was top 20, and Ohio State was top 10. And I don't care if Clemson's in the top 25 or not, it's still Clemson.
No,
They're still playing.
Yeah. They're unranked, but yes, they are still Clemson.
They're still Clemson. To ask you a question, I like that they hung in against Duke. They played absolutely, positively terrible. They hung in there. They had 9 penalties, and 5 of them were dead ball penalties, like you just jumping off sides or encroachment. That's not good. And when you're playing a team like Louisville this week, you can't keep giving Louisville chances. They got Plummer at quarterback. He played for Brom before, so he's very familiar with Brom's system. Jeff Brom likes to do big plays, man. He wants to hit you with a big play. And Notre Dame has to eliminate these big plays that Louisville is looking for. You want to make Louisville drive down the field. You want them to do a 10 or 12 play drive. I'll tip my hat to you do a 10 to 12 play drive. That's what you want, because then mistakes can happen. Louisville wants to hit you quick. We got a good cornerback. What's the kid's name? Robinson, I think his last name. Great cornerback, second year over here at Notre Dame. The defense is playing great. You want to make Louisville one-dimensional. You want to stuff the run. You want to make them go and pass again. You got to get them off the field. Then on the other side, Notre Dame has Thunder and Lightning. They have Estime, and then they got Jeremiah Love. They're coming at you hard with the running game. They need to continue to do that. Hartman has done really well this year. I think he's thrown 14 touchdowns, no interceptions so far this season.
Yeah, he's like the third in the nation.
The thing that I want, though, they need to extend the passing, extend it out. He's got a good tight end. Last year they had Michael Mayer. This year they got what's the kid's name? Mason. I think his name is tight end named Mason. Does a good job. Strictly a Notre Dame tight end. Big, tough kid, go over the middle, catch the pass. That's all you can ask for. I am not looking forward to this again. Hopefully, my prayers are answered and college game day does not follow Notre Dame to Louisville. I don't need college game day there. I just, and all jokes aside, Gary, and I said jokingly, but sincerely, when Notre Dame is good, it makes everything else relevant. Like them or hate them, you definitely want to see them and you want to beat them. And going in here this week, going into Louisville to play the Cardinals, they're tough. And you got to keep in mind, Jeff Brom is known for the upset. You remember he's at Purdue and he beat Ohio State one year. And, they didn't have a lot of talent on that team. And it happens. And you got to get out and get in front. Notre Dame teams have been starting slow this year. You need to get out and get in front. You also need to not play cautiously. That's what hurt them against Ohio State, playing cautious. Get out there
That's
and
what
do your
almost
thing.
hurt him against Duke too. When you get
Oh,
right down to it,
it was
yeah,
terrible. It was
yeah.
terrible. It was absolutely terrible. Notre Dame has a great defense. And here's the thing. Louisville was picked to be fifth or sixth in the ACC this year. They're, like the Orioles, they're a year ahead of schedule. They're
Actually, I think
just
that actually, John, I think they were picked to finish eighth. And remember, there are no divisions this year, so you're talking about middle of the pack. The the thing about Louisville, you alluded to the ground game. That's really a strong point. They've got this running back, Jawar Jordan, who has broken 3 plays of 75 plus yards, 2 of them rushing. For a while, he was averaging 10 yards a carry. As it is, I think he's still top 10 in rushing. But they've got this transfer wide receiver, Jamari Thrash, who has been Plummer's go-to guy. That's they're going to key on him. NC State keyed in on both of them and held Jordan to, I want to say it was like 20 yards or something. Well, he averaged like 2 yards a carry. I think it was 36 yards. But Notre Dame have to key on those guys, but you have to also remember Louisville's got depth. You can focus on them and you can limit them that way, but you got to account for everybody else. And like you said, just like with Duke, just like with Ohio State, don't let a team hang around to come back.
yeah.
Just don't do it. Yeah, you just can't do it. You can't play with fire 3 weeks in a row because you're going to get burned.
You know what the most beautiful
Twice.
sound? You know what the most beautiful sound you can hear when you go and play on the road? Silence.
Mm-hmm.
That crowd's not saying anything. Notre Dame needs to get in there, get on Louisville early, take the crowd out the game. They are going to be such a frenzy and so excited that they're getting ready to possibly beat the Fighting Irish, and they're taking down Notre Dame. They're taking down the tradition. They're taking down everything about Notre Dame. That's their mindset. And that's beautiful. That makes a great story. But I don't need Louisville to have a happy ending to their story, Gary. I don't need that.
I agree. So let's see. I was just trying. Well, yeah. So we've delved into everything, I guess, about college football right now. So let's move on to baseball, John. It's that time of year. The playoffs start today in both leagues. I don't want to talk about who the Orioles could play because I don't want to depress you or make you curse and mad, one or the other. But I'll just ask you a general question about what do you see about the playoff fields in both leagues, at least for this round. Do you see any teams that could be a surprise from this wild card and LDS round? Well, really from the wild card round.
Well, Milwaukee, I thought, could have done some things, but they lost with a second rotation pitcher, second starting pitcher last night with some shoulder problems.
Oh yeah.
So I'm looking for Philadelphia. I think Philadelphia plays the Marlins. I'm looking for Philadelphia to take the Marlins. I think Arizona plays Milwaukee. I think Arizona could get Milwaukee. On the other side, you have Toronto playing Houston. I think that is
No.
no.
Houston's got a bye. They're number 2.
So Toronto's playing Minnesota.
Yeah,
I got Minnesota. Take Minnesota for a dumb reason, but you know me, Gary. I'll share it with our audience why
there's no
Minnesota
dumb
plays.
reason. I mean, it's sports, John. There's no dumb reason because anything can happen.
Minnesota plays baseball outside, not in the dome. They play it outside. And I know that's just me being a grumpy old man. I want the game outside. I don't want a retractable roof. I want the game played outside. So I'm going with Minnesota there. Tampa Bay and Texas, I'm hoping that both of them lose and neither one of them moves forward. That's what I'm hoping for there. And then when you move to the next round, nationally, LA Dodgers, they're going to move forward. And on the American League side, I see Houston moving forward. I don't know who they'll move forward against. I see LA advancing. I know Atlanta went. Was it no? Philadelphia went to the World Series last year. Atlanta's really good this year, but I think LA. I think LA goes back to the World Series. I really do on the National League side.
Yeah, I'm National League side. After watching the Braves for much of the last month, watching them win games they shouldn't win, and just going on those tears where, they'll win like 5 out of 6 and will just dominate teams either with pitching or with hitting. It's hard for me to pick against the Braves. I'd love to pick the Orioles for a lot of reasons, and I might still go with them because John, as we watched that unfold all year, I said to you that when you were about ready to jump off the ledge, if the lead got below 3 games, that they always found a way to let them get close, but not close enough. It's kind of like that little game that we used to play, where somebody's trying to get in your car just as they're about to put their hand on the door. You pull forward, and he's like, "Come on, man!" That's how the Orioles kind of did with Tampa Bay. I say this, John, they're resilient and they are resourceful, and they get a chance to rest. Hopefully, they don't rest on their laurels, but I do like their chances. The thing is, you still have the Houston Astros who look vulnerable. They look strong at times. They look vulnerable at times. They fell behind, but then somehow they ended up stealing that division, as they have, during this run. Again, you've got to go through the top team, and the Orioles have to prove in a 7-game series against the Houston Astros, which I do think they will face them. But you got to prove you can beat a team like that because they know how to win. And, as we know full well, Dusty Baker just gets stuff out of his guys, whether it's pitchers or hitters. And he took over a good situation. Let's not forget that. But he got them to that next level. He got them over the hump last year and finally got his reward.
Make no mistake, Dusty Baker is one of the best managers in baseball, period.
Yeah.
Not just this season, but in baseball, period. They're a really good team. But Gary, I'll say something that I think 100-win teams is no guarantee. I've seen a 114-win Seattle team go down to the Yankees. I've seen an Atlanta team a couple of years ago, if I'm not mistaken, go down to the St. Louis Cardinals. So 100 wins does not guarantee, and sometimes it makes it harder for you. So we'll see what happens. And keep in mind this. The Orioles are missing Felix Bautista. And I think that is I think it's smart that he's not pitching. He has to get Tommy John surgery, which is unfortunate. But I'm glad the decision was made. They got the surgery, so it wasn't sitting out there like he could still pitch. He does not need to pitch. I need to think about his career.
Yeah.
So he has to get the surgery. He'll be out next season. That's going to hurt them in the playoffs because you don't really have a closer. And what they've done, they moved Cano into closing. I myself would have left Cano as a setup man, and then I would have chosen from either Cole Irvin as a closer or Cionel Perez as a closer. I would have done that because you're moving Cano out of his comfort level. Then you're going to have to move somebody else out their comfort level to go into his setup role. Just try to find one person that can get you through the 9th inning. And I say Cole Irvin. A lot of people look at me with their eyebrows raised. Cole Irvin struggles as a starter. but a closer, a relief pitcher, a closer is there for one inning. You got to fire it out in one inning. Cole Irvin has never had a problem in the first inning of a game. It comes later on. I think he'd be a terrific closer. He reminds me, I'm putting a lot of pressure on this guy when I say that. He reminds me of somebody that could go from a starter to a reliever and be successful in the mode of Dennis Eckersley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, John, we shall see. Well, we got to wrap it up. I'm going to give a shout out to I'm going to say one of our favorite Orioles, Brooks Robinson, who passed away last week. I think we'd already taped before he passed. John, I can't think of any player in my lifetime, who just really epitomized the not only the Oriole way, but the way you play defense at the hot corner. There's always been a debate about Mike Schmidt or Brooks Robinson being the best third baseman. I will say Brooks Robinson was the best defensive third baseman that I've ever seen. Schmidt might have been a total package, but I still think Brooks Robinson dominated that 1970 World Series himself. He did it with his bat and he did it with his glove. And that's the thing about him that I think made him great for so many years with the glove. It's like, 16 gold gloves, something like 14 All-Star selections. And, you could not get anything by him. And just probably arguably the best Oriole. I mean, he was Mr. Oriole in my view. As much as I love Frank Robinson and Paul Blair, it was Brooks Robinson who helped make me an Oriole fan.
Nothing like Brooksy, man. The hot corner, as it's called, he made it all so cool because he was a human vacuum. Nothing got past him at third base.
Yeah, yeah. So let's see. Anything you have to add, because I know you've got a little something out there that you need to get off your chest.
I had a question for John Pitt. First of all, hey John, how you doing?
Uh-oh. I don't know if we have John. I think he might be
He
might
might
be
be
the
out
silent
right now.
partner today.
Well, that's fine. I guess my question would be this week. I have a question for one of our previous guests, great guy, James Bell, with the
Oh yeah.
boxing source. Man, he's a boxing encyclopedia, man. Great guy and great on knowledge of the boxing game. He has what I remember as a pound for pound top 10 boxers. And when we last had him on the show, if I remember correctly, we did not have Canelo Alvarez in his top 10. And I guess my question for James now is, does Alvarez make your top 10 after he defeated Charlo this past weekend? That'd be my question for James. And hopefully he'll watch the show this week and he can email or text us and let us know if Mr. Alvarez will make his top 10.
Wow. Called him out, put a challenge out there. We shall see. In the meantime, folks, it's a great week. Not just with sports, but just it's that time of year. NBA training camps have opened up, and again, it's time. It's fall. It's baseball season. It's time for the fall classic. It's just around the corner. John, as a former baseball writer, I love this time of year. That's the one thing I miss. Now, of course, I love covering college football too. To me, a Saturday 3:30 game is probably as good as it gets. But that's the thing. There's plenty of that. There's baseball on every day for this week. So you got a choice there. And again, NBA training camps have started, and we're just around the corner even from hockey. We won't talk about Ryder Cup golf because it was nothing really to talk about. But I'll say it again. Watch sports, people. Again, it's a release. It's fun. Wager responsibly, as they always tell you, but just enjoy sports for what they are, the release that they were intended to be. John, take us home.
Hey, another great week in sports, man. I enjoyed this show, had a great time with it. Let me also add one more thing. As I asked this question to James Bell, I mean no disrespect to him. There's no challenge to him. It's just simply some fun asking the question where he sees Canelo Alvarez now that they've gotten through this fight. Just a question of having some fun. So, with that being said, everybody, take care. Have a wonderful week. Watch football, watch basketball, watch tennis, watch hockey. It's all coming back together right now. Take care. We'll see you again soon.